So our discussion so far is does does the brain become manipulated by stimulus? Is it more susceptible in the teenage brain? Where is your awareness? What is being controlled within the brain? That's what neuroscientists are trying to figure out by using magic, and they're able to do that by using fMRIs. Right, that's what's going on here. Diagnosing a brain disorder. They're able to actually inject a dye into the brain and track what happens whenever you're thinking. Sorry for the bell. So, this is talking about some other brain regions that might be affected and how they are affected if you want to take a look at it. All right. But let's take a look at um, controlling awareness in the wired brain. The possibilities of using magic as a source of cognitive illusion. So, again, the illusion that happens right within your brain and not necessarily sensory illusion. To help isolate the neural circuits responsible for specific cognitive functions seems endless. So if they can locate the source of cognitive illusions, what does that mean for when we find the neurons, the individual little cells and receptors inside of our brain? So neuroscientists recently brought a technique from magic that made volunteer subjects incorrectly link two events as cause and effect, while images of the subject's brain were recorded. When event A precedes event B, we often conclude rightly or wrongly that A causes B. The skilled magician takes advantage of that predisposition by making sure that event A, say pouring water on a ball, always precedes event B, the ball disappearing. In fact, A does not cause B, but its prior appearance helps the magician make it seem so. Cognitive psychologists call this kind of effect illusory correlation. So, in other words, we make the connection and they manipulate that, right? We connect that the water being poured over the ball will make the ball disappear. They use that to their benefit. In an unpublished study in 2006, Kuhn and cognitive neuroscientists Ben A. Paris and Tim L. Hodgson, both then at the University of Exeter in England, showed videos of magic tricks that involved apparent violations of cause and effect to subjects undergoing functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI. Okay, means they're dyeing the brain and watching how everything is firing off in the brain. You're hooked up to receptors so that they can see it. The subject's brain images were compared with those of a control group, people who watched videos showing no apparent causal violations. So, in other words, if you take a knife and cut it into a piece of cake, it cuts the cake in 9 separate pieces. That would be causal, no apparent causal violations. Someone takes a drink of water, the cup is now lower in level. The investigators found greater activation in the anterior cingulate cortex among the subjects who were watching magic tricks than among the controls. So their brain was functioning in a different part. The findings suggest that the brain area may be important for interpreting causal relationships. So there could be a part of the brain, right, that is only responsible for causal relationships, the anterior cingulate cortex. Does that part of the brain develop at the same rate for teenagers? Well, maybe not. It depends on the kid, right? We know that from what we just studied, that the brain develops slower and at different rates, just like the human body does. The work of Kuhn and his colleagues only begins to suggest the power of the techniques of magic for manipulating attention and awareness while studying the physiology of the brain. If neuroscientists learn to use the methods of magic with the same skill as professional magicians, they too should be able to control awareness precisely and in real time. If they correlate the content of that awareness with the functioning of neurons, they will have the means to explore some of the mysteries of the consciousness itself. So in other words, they can figure out which part of the brain, if they can figure out which part of the brain is in control of what auto response, could we then understand when the brain is fully developed and how it is fully developed and what effect that could have on the developing mind and on what we're able to put as pressure on someone. Teachers seem to think to have an idea of what we can do to help the brain develop. So I wonder if it's the same way there. Could they be studying your brain while you're in class to see what it is that's sparking you? What is it that is helping you gain knowledge? But worth a discussion. Again, more brain research to see is it possible for there to be too much support, or is that support needed within your brain? We'll discuss more of that in class.